Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. Don't mind my mess of a face and my hair. I just got done working a double and I was gonna wait until tomorrow to post this video, but I've been so excited to post this video after I learned about this readathon, and I'm already behind because it's August 2nd and I haven't started yet because I'm currently trying to finish The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid, because that is our book club pick of the month. So I'm trying to get that out of the way. Plus, my mom's kind of bugging me to borrow it. Love you, Mom, if you're watching. So today I have to share with you guys a Harry Potter readathon that is annual. I believe this is the second year that they're doing it. I learned about it from Books and Becca, who posted the original video, and the creator, who is G from the Book Roast. So shout out to them for making this challenge. And I love Harry Potter, so I had to do it. So I did not take place in the Owls readathon, which I believe was in June, and the Owls is the first series of tests that Hogwarts students take, I believe in their fourth or fifth year. And this one goes from that, and that is the N.E.W.TS testing, and it takes place during the 7th year. So the N.E.W.TS is kind of equivalent to the SATs for us, and you have to pass certain subjects to go for the job that you're looking for. So how the readathon works is you pick one of the wizarding careers, you find out what you need to get in each subject, and each subject's different grading has different prompts for you to follow. So I chose the Mind Witch career because I thought it sounded really cool, and anything with the mind is so interesting. And I have to get an O for in Charms, an O in Defense Against the Dark Arts, an E in Transfiguration, an E in Muggle Studies, and an E in Potions. So an A is an acceptable, E is exceeds expectations, and O is for outstanding. Now, if you need to get an E in a subject, you have to do the prompt for A and E. And if you have to get an O in a subject, then you have to do the prompts for, A, E, and O. So for some subjects, you end up having to read 3 books. So overall, I have to read a total of 12 books, which is super overwhelming because last month I think I read 10 or 11. But I'm already starting a book, so technically I have to get through 13, so I'm stressed because it's August 2nd and I haven't started, so we'll see how this goes. So I have broken it down in the order that I'm going to read each book in each section. I did it based on interest and also kind of size of the book and trying to tackle easier subjects over the harder ones just to get those books done. So without further ado, because I know this video is going to be super long because there's a lot, I'm going to jump right into my TBR list for the N.E.W.TS Harry Potter Magical Readathon. So the first subject that I'm going to complete is Muggle Studies, and I have to get an E in Muggle Studies, which is exceeds expectations, and I have to read 2 books for this section. So to get an A, I need to read a book that has an actual photo on it. It can be a person, place, thing, animal, any of that, but it has to be an actual photo. So I'm deciding to go with The Girls at 17 Swan Street by Yara Zighybe. I totally butchered that name. I have been wanting to read this book for a really long time after my best friend read it and she loved it. It looks big, but it is written in free verse, so it reads a lot easier than if it were actual chapters. And I don't know too much about this book besides what my best friend has told me, and it sounds like it takes place at this house where these girls live who are struggling with anorexia. So I think that'll be a really good read, and it does have a real photo because there are real people on the cover. You just see the backs of their head. The next one I have for Muggle Studies for the E is to read a book that takes place in our real world. So I struggle with this because I don't have any books that are taking place really in the current year. But the book that I did pick, I feel, is a good choice because it does deal with the real world. It's also been on my TBR for a while, so I jumped on the chance of that. And that is A Very Large Expanse of the Sea by Tahira Mafi. So this book takes place shortly after 9/11, and it follows our main character, who is Muslim, and all of the prejudice and situations she has to deal with for her culture following the 9/11 Twin Tower attacks. So I thought this was good for real world because As you know, right now, things are very tense in our country, and that stigma obviously still surrounds people from the Muslim religion and culture, that everyone, thinks that they do all these bad things. So I thought this was good for a book taking place in the real world. I've also heard really good things about this book, and it's not too large in size, so also looking forward to that. The next subject I'm going to do, sorry I keep getting on my cheat list, is potions. So for potions, I have to get an E. So I have to read 2 books. The first prompt is Ferde is one of your friend's favorite books. So again, I mention all the time, my best friend gave me 3 of her books a little while ago, and they've been sitting on my shelf forever because keep buying books, and we have so many of each other's books in. It's hard to keep track of it. I've been dying to get through her books to return them to her. So she told me to read this one because this is one of her favorites. I literally have no idea what this book is about, but is Our Chemical Hearts by Crystal Sutherland. All I know is that there's some sort of romance taking place, and I believe they're teenagers. All I've heard is that it's very good, so I'm kind of excited to go in not really knowing much because I feel like I will enjoy it much more. And then to finalize my E in potions, I have to read a book with the colors of my house. So I am a Hufflepuff. I love Hufflepuff. I believe I'm the definition of Hufflepuff. I love the colors of Hufflepuff. I think Hufflepuff is underestimated and underrepresented in all the Harry Potter movies. Still love you, Harry Potter, though. So I have a couple of yellow books, but this one really stuck out to me because it's yellow and black, which is Hufflepuff colors, and I've also wanted to read this for a while, and I just read a book by this author last month, and I liked it. I didn't love it, but I liked it enough to want to read more of her stuff. And again, I'm trying to pick books that have been on my shelf and my TBR for so long. So I chose Bring Me Back by B.A. Paris. Also don't know much about this. I know that someone goes missing, and it's a thriller of some sorts. I've heard mixed things about it, so it'll be kind of cool to see how alike this is to her Behind Closed Doors. And I believe this is her newer one. She has 3 books. No, this is her newer one, I believe. I think this just came out. I'm looking on the back for the year. No, it's the breakdown that's the new one. So this is her middle novel. So yellow, black, Hufflepuff all the way. So next I am tackling one of my O subjects where I have to read 3 books, and that is charms. I love charms. I was so excited that I had to study and pass this subject for this career. So there are 3 books that I have to read. To get an A, I have to read a book with a gorgeous cover. I really like how open-ended that is because it's based off of your preferences, which I think is great because it makes it more fun and more unique to you. So I am choosing a hefty book, but I am obsessed with this cover, and that is Heartless by Marissa Meyer, who is the author of the Lunar Chronicles. I haven't read the Lunar Chronicles yet. I've heard good things. I've heard good things about this author. I learned about this book from BookTube, and from my understanding, it is a retelling of Alice in Wonderland, so this will be a really fun read. It is a big boy, though. How many pages are in this book? Look. 450 casual, but this dust jacket is gorgeous, and the cover of the book is stunning. I love it. And it's got a red interior, which I also really appreciate. So this is my choice for a gorgeous book. Hopefully I can get to this within the next 2 weeks and fly through those shorter ones. For the E, to exceed expectations, I have to read a graphic novel, a comic book, or a manga. And I'm so mad at myself because I ordered a graphic novel because I've really been trying them. And I have a bunch of comics on my shelf from Riverdale and Archie Comics, so I might end up changing this one depending on where I'm at and what time of the month it is, because the Riverdale ones and Archie ones I know I'll fly through because I grew up on Archie Comics. So I bought this Teen Titans Raven graphic novel. I didn't realize it was literally for Teen Titans and DC Inc. I'm not a DC fan, I'm a Marvel fan all the way, but I really stuck out to this book because it follows our main character, Raven, whose foster mother dies in an accident, and she loses her memory and has to go to a new high school to try to rebuild her memory and identity from what I got out of it. And I just loved that it is a foster child because I do work with foster kids, so this really kind of stuck out to me. So I'm excited to try it. Hopefully it'll be a quick read. It is a little bit thicker of a graphic novel, but Check Please was a lot longer than this, and I flew through that. So, and I also really like the cover. I think the purple is so pretty. That's beside the point. So in order to finish with an O in Charms, my third book that I have to read is a paperback. And again, this book I was supposed to read last month, but then I did the reading rush, so I didn't get to it, and I've heard such good things about this book, so I was like, now I'm going to read this for my paperback. And that is none other than The Friend Zone by Abby Jimenez. So this follows our main character, Kristen, whose best friend is getting married, and Kristen meets Josh, who was the best man in the wedding. And they kind of start falling for each other, but here is the issue. Kristen is not able to have kids, and Josh wants a big family. So she doesn't want to talk to him about how her issues, like her fertility issues, and she really struggles with that, and she knows that she can't give him a family, so she starts to push herself away without telling him why. So there's a lot of miscommunication between the two that causes a lot of issues. So it sounds really interesting. I like that it's talking about fertility and it's a romance, because I feel like a lot of times infertility is not talked about like it should, because it's a very real issue that women are facing all over the world of any age. So I'm excited to see how the author handles this subject, because it is a delicate topic, but I have heard from reviews on Goodreads and BookTube that the author does it very well. So we'll be excited to start this. Pray for me that I get through all these books, guys. Oh man. Good thing I picked up a bunch of shifts in my other job this month. Of course, that's how it always works. For my fourth subject, I have to get an E in Transfiguration, which is also super cool because love it, and I would love to turn into a cat like McGonagall does. I think if I was in Harry Potter, I would turn into a cat. So the first book that I have to read is a book that has an LGBTQA representation. This is another book I heard a lot about on BookTube, so I decided I was going to do this for that, and that is The Princess and the Fangirl by Ashley Poston. So this is a companion novel to Geekerella, which I didn't read. So I did a little research to see if I needed to read Geekerella to read this, and I didn't. So I was really happy about that, because there was no way I was going to have time to get through both of them. And this follows our main character, who is a fangirl of this show called Starfield, and I believe she writes fan fiction, and they look alike, and the girl who stars in Starfield is kind of tired of the celebrity life and being associated as the girl who's in Starfield, so they switch places, and romance ends up budding between the two of them. So this will be good, and this is what I'm doing for my LGBTQA representation. In order to get an E in Transfiguration, I do have to read 2 books. The second book I have to read is not the first in this series. So I am doing another big book, Legendary by Stephanie Garber, and this is the sequel to Caraval. So this takes place as another year at Caraval, but from what I've read, this follows, instead of the main character Scarlet, it follows her sister. What was her name? Donatella. I was going to find a different sequel, but I loved Caraval, and I've been dying to find out what happens, so I figured this was the perfect opportunity for me to jump on that. And last but not least, yay, I have to get an O in Defense Against the Dark Arts. So, to read 3 books for this. The first one I have to read is a book that has a black cover under the dust jacket. So I'm glad I set up my subjects the way I did, because the book I chose for this is Finale by Stephanie Garber. And if you look under the beautiful dust jacket, the book is in fact black. So I figured this is the perfect opportunity to finish the series. This is the 3rd and final installment in the Caraval series, again, which I loved. Also a big book, but I flew through Caraval. I have zero idea what this is about. I just know it ends the series, and I'm feeling bittersweet about it. The next one I have is, for E, you have to think of the first book on your TBR. So my TBR is very long. It's over 200 books. It's like 209. So instead of just randomly thinking, because my mind was going to a couple of the books that I want to read really bad, but then I considered that wasn't first thought random. So I did a random number generator out of 209, and I got the number 163. So the book I actually ended up on was the first in the series, so I got really lucky on that. And that is Reason to Breathe by Rebecca Donovan, and this is the first installment in the Breathing series. I also have no idea what this book is about, so I suck at this video, but my coworker is moved and she got rid of some of her books, and this was one of the books that she got rid of. All I know is that it's a romance, but it sounds like it is somewhat of a dark romance because the main character has bruises on her, so not sure what that's about, but I am excited to get into this. And then last but not least, my 12th book for this, to get my O in Defense Against the Dark Arts, is read a book that takes place in England or is written by an English author. So with this book, I'm actually getting both of those because this takes place in London, and that is The Mister by E.L. James. So this is her newer book that just came out this year. I got it signed by her at BookCon, and it follows our main character, Maxim, who is like very rich and very gorgeous, doesn't have a sense of responsibility. He falls upon a lot of money and ends up having to have a lot of responsibility, and he runs into this girl who is new to London, and she does not give him the time of day, which irritates him, and she's very mysterious, and he wants to know more about her, so he pursues her, and I believe it turns into a romance. I cannot figure out which way is the correct way, so that is why I keep moving my books. So I loved the 50 Shades trilogy, and I loved E.L. James when I met her. She was super sweet and really funny. So I figured this was the perfect time to read this. And my mom just read it and said it was really good. And my sister is currently reading it. So I don't want to be left out of that discussion. So yeah, this is going to be my final book in the N.E.W.TS Magical Readathon. So those are all 12 books that I have to get through. Pray for me because I don't know if it's going to happen, and I'm already stressed about it. And I don't know why I do this to myself, but it's Harry Potter, so I have to do it. But it'll be a learning experience because it's an annual readathon. Hopefully next year I can remember to do the owls and then the newts and try different careers and figure out what worked for me, what didn't work for me. I feel confident that a lot of these books are smaller. I am a fast reader, but there are a couple big boys in here, so that makes me nervous. But alright guys, thanks for sticking there with me, and I will see you soon, and hopefully we'll have a great update for you on how my reading progress is going. Bye!